Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to talk about some updates to my whole house solar. Yes, it's time to try to get the whole house running off of solar power. Will I make it happen? Probably not. Yeah, so for a little clarification, I'm not going to put the whole house on the solar. I can't do it, you know. We've talked about this. The dryer, the water heater, maybe the water heater. The dryer, no. The stove, no, I don't want to run that off solar. What I want to run off solar is lights and appliances and devices and TVs and mini split air conditioners and refrigerators and small appliances, those kind of things. Things I use every day, I want to run off solar as much as I can. And when the solar's not available, then I'll run off the grid and have my battery strictly, for now, as a backup. Now, as I grow the system and get more storage capacity, i.e. batteries, then I'll be able to move towards being a little more off the grid, generating my own power, storing it responsibly, and enough of it to tide me over when maybe solar isn't so good, or maybe when the grid is down. So, where we're at today is what this video is all about. And I'm going to show you some of the things I've had to do to get there. Now, the other thing that need to happen is the fact that my solar cells, my solar panels, are not really secured and grounded properly outside. I set them up, basically laid them out on some lawn chairs, and aimed them at the sky to as a test. And now I need to make sure those that I've got mounts for these solar panels. I just need to get them put into place. So today I'm also going to be transferring my 400 watt panels over to 2 solar mounts. And putting those on skids and then securing those to the ground as best I can with concrete blocks. So you'll get to see a little bit of that. And then we're going to go into my electrical panel and do some work in there, and then into the equipment room. So I could sit around and talk about this all day, but let's get the video started right now. as you can see, the panel, wow, has been cleaned up and everything's been labeled. And yeah, there's more of the wall missing, and the reason for that is because of this big guy right here. This is a number 2, not 2-aught, but a number 2 AWG aluminum service entrance cable. So it's 3 number 2 aluminum wires and a number 4 aluminum wire for the ground. So you got 2 hots, a neutral, and a ground in here. And this will carry up to 100 amps on it. And this is, so I've cut a hole down here, well, just to show you the whole thing. There's a big hole in my house. Yeah, and I had to, in order to get to this from the outside, there'll be an access panel I'm going to be putting in here, but I had to bore a big old hole through my sill plate to put this service entrance cable, and then I went ahead and my cables that were running through those holes, which I will seal up as well, are now come up through the bottom properly, and then run up into the panel. And then this number 2 wire, and don't do this, folks, don't do what I'm doing, okay? I know what I'm doing with electrical. However, you should hire a qualified licensed electrician, and in a lot of jurisdictions you're required by law to do that, so keep that in mind. So one of those, I got one of these nifty little lights from IKEA. They make great work lights. So the number 2 service entrance cable will come up through that bushing right there. There used to be a big wire there. I'm going to show you outside that wire. That was for my furnace. And the breaker for the furnace was right here when we had electric heat and a furnace in the house, and it was a 100 amp breaker. So this panel now needs to be replaced, but I don't have the money to do it right now, so I'm making do with what I got, and as soon as we have the finances available, we'll replace the panel. But so instead of putting, this cable will hold 100 amps, okay? So I could have this going over to my solar at 100 amps, but I've decided to limit it and only put a 60 amp breaker on there. So a 60 amp breaker on a number 2 aluminum wire is perfectly fine. And that way we'll limit the amount of current that can go out of there. And then I've labeled all my other circuits so I know where they go. And changing out a panel is not trivial, especially when dealing with number 4 aluminum wire. You can see that's number 4 aluminum wire, can you? Yeah, number 4, right. 4-aught wire. So that shit is heavy, and I put all this in back when we put this house together. So you see that wire right there. Now these wires are dead. This is the wire that went to my furnace, and this goes underneath the house and back to my furnace. And then this black wire here is the wire that used to go to my condenser unit for my air conditioning. And then here is the back of the house. You remember the back of the house. So I've got a line coming out here for the pool, and then this is where I cut my access panel, and we'll cover that up with another piece. And then here is where it goes down and comes out here to the sill. And you see I've got a lot. I've got that wire stretched out. In fact, I need to stretch it out into the sun so it'll help heat it up and loosen it up. Let's do that while I got you here. Because this wire is going to be a lot easier to deal with when it gets a little sun on it. Oh, pardon my camera angle. Alright. So, we'll come back out here afternoon, but you can see it's a long... I went ahead and got, I think it was either 100 or 50 feet of cable. I can't remember, 50 or 100 foot of cable, because it's got to go to the other side of the house. And then all the other cables that go to my mini splits and stuff like that are all these gray wires down there. And they come up, and you're allowed to do this. This is not this gray stuff is not Romex. It's made for direct burial underground, and it can be run outside of the home, even though the code doesn't require it, because this is considered a crawl space. I'm not required to have special cable, but I went ahead and went the extra inch or extra mile and got that special rated number 12-2 wire, so I could have a little tougher wire outside. So come on around over here, or right on the other side here is my equipment closet. So I've got my I just noticed my wire came off there. So right here is my disconnect for my mini split for my studio, and then my network cables come up through there. So this, from there over to here, is where that number 2 service entrance cable is going to be. It's going to come up through the floor, and then this unit here, this wire here, will then be run up inside, and this will run off or set on the critical loads panel to run off of solar. So I got my work cut out for me today. It's been a busy weekend for me, to say the least, but I got the majority of the work on the panel done. So let me put a little light on this subject. We'll start down here on the bottom. So that big, large gray cable is a 2224 aluminum service entrance cable, and it comes up through the bottom here, and then I break it out, and it's this black wire with the red mark right here. So these are the 2 hots right here, and they plug into a 60 amp breaker. Now this wire is capable of handling 100 amps. This is the feeder that goes to the sub panel in my equipment closet in the server room. And that wire is capable of doing 100 amps. But I decided I don't need 100 amps service right now, so I limited the current that can go down there with a 60 amp breaker, and you can see it's on, right? The other thing I did, I had to put an adapter on my neutral bus bar. You see that little block there to handle that larger size cable. So there's the neutral with the white stripe on it. And then while I was in here, I just cleaned up all the wiring, and you gotta admit it's much cleaner than it was. The other thing I did was I moved all of these wires behind these. These are the big number 4 wires that come from my utility company and feed me with 200 amps. Don't do what I'm doing. There are dangerous voltages and amperage. I mean, this is 200 amp service. This will kill you in a heartbeat. You stick your hand in it. If you don't know what you're doing with electrical, don't do what I'm doing. Don't take my advice. Get a qualified electrician. For God's sakes, don't take the cover off your panel. All right? Anyway, the other thing I had to do was put an adapter on my grounding block there, because this silver wire is also the ground connection for that sub panel. But anyway, while I was in here, I went ahead and put all my wires behind my feeder cables like they should be, and I checked the torque on all of these. Now, what will end up happening is some of these loads, some of these circuits will be, I'll put these little Wago canal, take them off the breaker, put these little Wago connectors, and I'll run another wire, another number 14 wire, which is this white wire right here is number 14. I'll end up running that back to the other panel in the room you'll see here in a moment. And those will be my critical loads that I want to be able to run off of solar. Alright, so this is the heart of the operation. So let me explain to you what I've done. Whew, and it's warm in here. It's nice and warm in here. So there's that big old gray feeder cable. Cut up through the hole in the floor, and then back here, and then back behind the batteries, and then up and over and into, oh, there's my panel right there. So there's a hot and a neutral and a ground, and I've got a separate grounding bar because you never tie the ground with the neutral. And and then I have a 40 amp single pole breaker in here that provides power to the Multiplus II 24 volt inverter. And right now it's charging the batteries at 40 amps. I can charge as high as 50 amps with it, but that's another story. So anyway, just give you an idea of how many amps it's pulling right now. So right now it's pulling 10 amps through this breaker. Now this breaker is set up for 40 amps, and so what this is my sub panel. So this feeds electricity into this room so that I can then distribute that electricity through this Multiplus. Now, originally I ordered an EG4 6000 XP, but they're unavailable, and I had a lot of trouble with the company trying to get it ordered. I felt I was getting shucked and jived. So this morning I woke up at 11 o'clock or 11 p.m. last night, and I said, you know what, I'm going to cancel that order, and I'm going to go, since I have all this Victron gear, which is great gear, by the way. I cannot say enough good things about Victron. I just decided to go ahead and bite the bullet, and I ordered a Multiplus II 48 volt 3000 VA 70 amp charger. So I'm going to keep this one here until I get my 48 volt one here, and then I'll be able to use this 48 volt battery that I got, and it is working. Everybody be happy to know. See, smart BMS. And let's give you the status. And you see that it's a 48 volt battery, and it's all well and good. So that's ready to go, and I'm going to order another one of those. And then I have these batteries down here, which I can combine and make 48 volt batteries out of. So, alright, this room's a bit of a mess, but as you can see, my little baby Victron over here, this is my 24 volt, you're not seeing double, this is my 24 volt Multiplus II, and this is my 48 volt 5000 VA 70 amp. It is hooked up and doing the majority of the heavy lifting. I'm currently testing this battery. It's a cheapy creepy Expert Power $1,100 battery with free shipping and no managed BMS, but you do get a breaker and you get a screen so you can see what's going on, but you can't really change any of the settings that I'm aware of. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. One way around that would be to put like a JK BMS in it after you get the battery for another, 100, 150 bucks plus your time. But I also had an epiphany, because I was like, wow, I don't want to have to put this unit on the interwebs. I think there is a way that I can treat one of these as a generator, and which would be passed through to this one. So this could be like a backup to this one, to the backup, but running on a 24 volt battery instead of a 48 volt. However, these two Redodo batteries are going to be combined to create another 48 volt battery. And then I have two more Redodo batteries out here in the other room. Those are going to be combined to make a 48 volt. And then I have two more 8 cell batteries that are DIY for 24 volt for each one of those. So I could keep those custom DIY battery banks at 24 volt and just hook them up to that and have this provide power to that to keep that charged. So in the event that I need some auxiliary power, I can pull it out of this Multiplus II and set up it's already got a separate circuit, right? It's already got its own panel for output of power. So we have our own distribution panel where we can, again, with a transfer switch or something of that sort, be able to transfer loads. I don't know, I got to wrap my head around all this, but the wiring is in place for it. It's already in place for the 48 volt unit. I've started wiring this as our critical loads panel. Now originally I was going to reserve this for our 240 volt system, but I can easily do that with just pulling that jumper wire off and running another hot cable from the other Multiplus II when I get it. And then I'll be able to run split phase electricity. But right now I don't need it. I just need 120 volts, and I've got a few circuits that need to pass through, and one that is not really, I mean, it's an add-on, it's an afterthought, but I wanted to run a heater on its own circuit on the Multiplus, in addition to the other loads I had, to see how the Multiplus II handles everything, and it handles it great. There's not even a hitch in the get-along. So the only thing left to do now is we put some covers on these panels. I'm going to fill this panel with breakers and then put a panel on, or put the cover on it, just for the, you know, for the illusion of safety, if nothing else. And yeah, it's getting really tight in here. Yeah, I've been a busy boy. So we got the panels. I got the 400 watt panels mounted on their new mounts. I've ordered 2 other mounts for the 100 watt panels. Those have come in. I just need to assemble those and get the 100 watt panels mounted up. I think I can get 5 or 6 of those 100 watt panels on one of these mounts. And then I'm going to buy some more solar panels here within the next 6 to 9 months, somewhere right around there. The other thing you saw was, yeah, I got a new Victron 48 volt 5000 VA inverter, and I didn't have a choice. I really wanted the EG4 6000 XP. I really wanted to get my hands on it and you know, play with it, but it wasn't meant to be. I ordered the thing from a company which shall remain nameless, and they could have communicated a little bit better with me as to whether that machine was actually available or not before I plunked my money down. They held on to my money for nearly a month and never delivered, never shipped the unit, in fact, because it was back ordered. So I had an epiphany one evening while watching Andy at Off Grid Garage, and said, you know, you've got all this money and time invested in Victron. Just go with the Victron 48 volt inverter. It's only a 120 volt inverter, but you know, I need to move forward with my solar system. And the beauty of this is I can always come back in later with the EG4 and set up. You know, I've got my equipment room set up as such that I can add a different inverter, multiple inverters, and have multiple critical loads panels in there, and I've got lots of flexibility. Let's put it that way. So the EG4 6000 XP will probably be a project that I wait for till I get, you know, my money spent on more batteries and more solar panels to generate more electricity. I've actually gone ahead of schedule. I did not plan on having my critical loads panel set up this early in 2024, but you know, like I said, I had that epiphany, and I just keep seeing electric rates going up and usage going up, and I just said, no, we got a lot of money invested in this solar. We need to make it start paying for itself now. So we should start seeing a noticeable dip in our energy bill moving forward. It's not going to be big. It'll be slow. And as I get more critical loads transferred over to these new panels in here, we'll be in better shape. And then the money that we're then saving on our electric bill, we can put back into the solar. So now I went ahead and got a new Serbo GX Model S and another Victron shunt, 500 amp shunt, so that I could keep my 24 volt system and my 48 volt system separate. And that's, again, it's one of the beautiful things about the Victron ecosystem. It allows you to do that. Now, it ain't cheap. The Serbo was under $250, so I got a really good deal on it. The shunt was like $100 and some odd bucks. So, you know, there's another $350, right? Just to set up a 24 volt system. It all adds up, but it does allow you quite a bit of flexibility. And there was a bit of a learning curve because Victron is very powerful, has very powerful software, but if you don't use it all the time, you know, the muscle memory kind of fades. So I had to retrain my brain on how to program that, the Serbo and all the settings for the 24 volt system versus the 48 volt system. So that meant I did a lot of jockeying back and forth between the two interfaces. But here we go. So at a glance, you can see that the 48-volt system, the battery's at about 76. I'm doing some tests on the battery right now because I just rebuilt my 24-volt DIY batteries into a 48-volt, and so I'm testing it. So right now it tells you it's charging, the voltage, the percentage of the battery charge, how many watts are coming in total from solar, and how many on the 48-volt system right here, how large the load is, and how much power is coming from the grid. Now you're probably noticing, wow, there's a lot of power coming from the grid, and that's because I'm charging this battery or the battery bank on the 48-volt system. And then I can go into each system on its own. There's the 48-volt system. It tells me exactly how many watts or how many amps are going into the battery, how many amps are coming from the utility, how much is coming from solar. You can see I'm having a very good 1,000 watt solar day. Those are 1,600 watts worth of panels, but that's pretty good performance for a partly cloudy day, I would say. And then I can go back to the 24-volt system as well. So the 24-volt system has my equipment room and my mini split on its critical loads panel. The 48-volt system has my studio, this side of the house, the right-hand side of the house, on its critical loads panel. So that's where the difference in power consumption comes in. I just wanted to have a separate system right now while I have that 24-volt inverter. Now, eventually, I will have that EG4 system in here. I've got a choice. I can either buy another Victron 48-volt 5000 VA system and put them in parallel and get split phase 120, 240-volt system. That's one way to do it. The Victron inverters, these units that I bought, are about $1,700 a piece, whereas the EG4 unit is $1,300 delivered to my door plus tax. So figure $1,500 delivered to my door with tax, and it has all the breakers built into it. It has the solar charge controller built into it. It has the inverter built in. It has the battery charger built in. It has everything built in, including the breakers and the shutoffs for the PV, for the solar. It's money well spent, and it gives me split phase. So, yeah. Plus, I get to put my hands on it and see how their software is. So that's what we'll probably end up doing, is purchasing one of those to do our, and I'll probably relegate that one to handling our mini splits that are 240 volt, because I don't have that many items that run off 240 volt. It's more efficient to run your air conditioning, your heat pumps off 220 than it is off 110 or 120. So that's what I may do. I don't know. I have some decisions to make. So there you go. Well on our way to getting the house connected up via solar. In fact, once I'm done recording this video today, I've got to go outside and run 3 new lines back to my panels so I can get my panel finished and closed, and get those 3 new circuits on the critical loads panel. 2 of those are going to be the refrigerator circuit, and then I think we'll have the home entertainment area, wireless router, whatnot. We'll have all that on a critical load as well, so that we can still have internet if the power went out, or if we were having a power event of some sort. So yeah, it's nice to see all this money I've spent finally being put to use, and it's nice to see the power coming in and going out, and but folks, this stuff is not cheap shit. Just all that work I've done in that equipment room, that's hundreds of dollars worth of, the electrical panels are about $100 a piece. The conduit, the wire is so expensive right now, but I buy a little bit here and there as I can afford it, and just cash flow it as best I can. And that works for me. Some of you may be better off just to go out and buy an all-in-one system. EG4 makes those as well. Canadian Solar makes an all-in-one system. There's stuff out there. So, you may not be a DIYer like myself, or a tinker, a habitual tinkerer. So this may not be, something that you'd be interested in. But I'm going to make this thing pay for itself one way or another. So there you go. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Please leave your comments down in the comments section. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and click that notification bell to be notified of new videos when they come out. Donate if you're so inclined. It helps us pay the bills and keep the lights on, that kind of thing. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube join function, or just become a YouTube premium member and, pay your monthly fee like the rest of us schleps, and we all get a little piece of the pie. So I want to thank you again for coming to see me. I do appreciate your patronage. And don't forget, we'll see all of you on the other side.